The U.S. is the world's largest consumer of cocaine, heroin, and marijuana, and drug cartels in Mexico are meeting most of that demand. They produce and ship illegal substances into the American market. But as Mexico's government takes on those gangs, the rising violence has left thousands dead and communities shattered. CCTV's Franc Contreras takes us to one such town that up until a few weeks ago was peaceful.
The fields of Pilcaya, Mexico. Families have been raising their children and making their living off the land here for generations. For the most part, theirs have been peaceful lives. That changed this summer. Witnesses say on the night of June 26th, just before 1 a.m., 3 trucks arrived carrying 15 gunmen. They took their assault rifles straight to the mayor's office and opened fire. Municipal police shot back, killing one of the gunmen. The odd thing is that the commando was shooting at the mayor's office in the middle of the night. Luckily, no one was around, but their attack appears to be a sort of deadly warning. Days after that incident, a municipal police officer was dragged from his home. His body parts were found inside 2 garbage bags. On the night that gun violence came to Pilcaya, this man, like so many others in the town, was at home in bed. He spoke with CCTV on the condition we protect his identity.
Eran las 0 horas con 30 minutos.
It was 12:30 a.m. I woke up thinking it was raining tiles or rocks, but it was bullet fire from AR-15s and all sorts of big machine guns. The facade of the city hall was completely perforated with bullet holes. There was broken glass everywhere, especially the side where the Treasury office is located. There were pools of blood.
The town of Pilcaya has joined a growing list of Mexican municipalities that up until recently were peaceful places to live, but have become hotspots for crime-related violence. The few who are able to invest here are putting their businesses on hold. Instead of producing ripe tomatoes and fresh table flowers, they're waiting to see if security returns. They know that business leaders have already been targeted. This man tells me that a criminal organization came earlier this year and kidnapped his father.
My father was doing well business-wise with his pumpkin crop. I think that's what made him a target. We paid a ransom.
They demanded a ransom amounting to the equivalent of nearly $20,000.
Nowadays, it has become a town where you can easily be kidnapped, assaulted, robbed, and killed. It's a town where shootouts occur frequently.
Pilcaya is located in Mexico's western Pacific coast state of Guerrero. In recent years, this region has had one of the country's highest rates of gun violence. In the last 4 years, it's taken the lives of at least 3 mayors in this part of Guerrero state alone. Christopher Salvador Vergara was the mayor of the tourist town of Iztapan de la Sal. Armed men murdered him while he was driving toward Pilcaya. Abel Uribe Landa was the mayor of the neighboring town of Tetipac. He was kidnapped from his home at night. His dead body turned up days later, hands tied behind the victim's back. The corpse of Jose Nava Altamirano, mayor of a town called Sacalpan, was found with signs he was beaten to death. One public servant with supposed connections to La Familia crime group was accused of murdering him, but never arrested. Mexico has been fighting drug traffickers on and off since the 1970s, when U.S. President Richard Nixon declared a war on drugs in Latin America. The violence spiked. In December 2006, former Mexican President Felipe Calderón decided to use military forces to combat drug traffickers. The troops found themselves doing the job of local, state, and federal police, who were often considered to be corrupt. Upon taking office in December 2012, President Enrique Peña Nieto inherited the problem of drug violence and the strategy of using Mexico's armed forces to contain it. Crime data indicate that during Peña Nieto's first 6 months in office, the level of drug violence has remained about the same in Mexico as the last few months of the Calderón administration.
More of a step back and looking.
The author of a well-known book on drug violence in Mexico says the Mexican government's strategy of using the military has led to a fragmentation of many of the country's most powerful drug trafficking organizations. Some of Mexico's most notorious criminals now lead these smaller groups.
Now, often it's the people who were in charge of the violence, the murder, the assassins, who took over these new fragmented groups, because they were the ones with the guns and with the murderers.
So what can be done to really stop this violence?
And the only way to really make a radical change in the status quo is to have drug policy reform in the United States, in Mexico, and internationally.
The people of Pilcaya are trying to return to their normal, peaceful way of living. But many now fear that once the security forces leave, armed men might return and begin extorting them too. They know that's been the case in many other cities, towns, and villages across Mexico. Franc Contreras, CCTV, Pilcaya, Mexico.